Drama Stories YouTube.
The woman who raised me wasn't my mother, and the truth destroyed everything. It all began at my mother's funeral. The woman who had raised me, cared for me, loved me unconditionally, was gone. I stood by her casket, numb, surrounded by flowers and murmurs of sympathy, but none of the voices could silence the storm inside me. I was lost. She had been my everything, or so I thought. A few weeks after the funeral, while sorting through her things, I found a small wooden box hidden deep in the back of her closet. It was locked, but curiosity, or maybe fate, pushed me to find the key. I searched every drawer, every pocket of her clothes, and when I finally opened it, I found letters. Dozens of them, all of them addressed to someone named Estella. But my name is Emily. At first, I thought maybe she had written to an old friend, but when I opened the first letter, my hands began to tremble. To my beautiful daughter Estella, I pray that one day you'll understand why I had to do it, why I had to take you. Take me? The blood drained from my face as I read letter after letter. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. She didn't just raise me, she stole me from someone else. I was never adopted. There were no legal papers. There was only this, a confession hidden in ink and silence. I couldn't breathe. The woman who had been my mother wasn't my mother at all. I had been stolen, as a baby. She had taken me from another woman, another life, and built a home for me in her arms. But what had I really been to her? Was I simply a substitute for the child she had lost? I confronted my aunt, the only family member left. Her eyes widened when I mentioned the name Estella. "You weren't supposed to find that," she whispered, her voice thick with regret. "But is it true?" I begged. "Am I not her daughter?" She nodded slowly. "You were taken from the hospital as a baby. She wasn't in her right mind after losing her child. She saw you alone, left in the NICU. Your biological mother had complications and was unconscious. Your mother, she took you, and never looked back." I felt the world crumble around me. How could I process this? The woman who had been my everything, the one who wiped away my tears, cheered for my victories and made me feel safe, had stolen me. She had never been my real mother. My thoughts swirled in a dizzying whirl of disbelief. My world had been shattered, and the only way to rebuild it was to understand the truth. I began a search for my biological family. I found a woman, Maria del Pilar, who had filed a police report 23 years ago about a missing baby girl named Estella. The search had gone cold, but she never gave up hope. When I met her, she burst into tears. She touched my face like it was a miracle. "I knew you were out there," she whispered, her voice full of a pain that matched my own. I never gave up. I had expected a reunion filled with joy, a mother finally reunited with her child, but all I felt was guilt. Guilt for grieving a woman who had lied to me for my entire life, and guilt for not recognizing the woman who had grieved me for over 2 decades. My real mother had searched for me every day, while I had no idea who she even was. The guilt gnawed at me. I had a mother, a real mother, but I couldn't bring myself to love her immediately. She wasn't the woman who had kissed me goodnight and held my hand through my darkest days. The worst part? She had a son, my biological brother. His name was Tomas, and he hated me. "You lived the life I was supposed to have," he told me coldly, his words sharp like a knife. "You got her love. You got her hugs. I got silence. I got her crying every birthday." He didn't understand. I didn't choose this. I didn't choose to be stolen. I hadn't asked for any of this pain. But how could I explain that to him? How could I make him see that I wasn't the cause of his suffering? I was just the face of it. Tomas refused to acknowledge me. Every time I tried to talk to him, he turned away. The silence between us became a physical thing, a wall that grew taller with every passing day. I continued to visit Maria del Pilar, trying to understand her pain. She was kind, but there was a sadness in her eyes that spoke of years lost. Years spent wondering where I was, what had happened to me. And she, too, carried the burden of the stolen child, the lost daughter who had been replaced with someone she had never known. Months passed. I tried to adjust, but I didn't belong anywhere. The woman I called Mom had been kind, warm, and loving, but she had stolen me. She had given me a life of comfort, but it had all been built on a lie. My real mother was broken, trying to love me through years of loss, years of wondering where I was. She never stopped thinking of me, and now that I was here, I felt like a stranger in her arms. Tomas hated me, and that hate seemed to multiply every time we spoke. He blamed me for the loss of his mother's love, but I had never asked for that love in the first place. I had never asked to be raised by her. And me? I didn't know who I was anymore. I was someone who didn't belong to either world, someone who had been torn between two families, two lives, two identities. One night, I went back to my old home. It was empty now. The scent of her perfume still lingered in the air. I sat in her room, holding the last letter she ever wrote. Estella, I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt you. I just couldn't bear losing a child again. You were my salvation. I know what I did was wrong, but I loved you every second of your life. I loved you with a mother's heart. And I cried. Because I believed her, and I hated her, and I missed her. I sat there for hours, lost in my thoughts, unsure of what to do next. I didn't know if I could forgive her, but I didn't know if I could forgive myself either. In the days that followed, I tried to rebuild a new relationship with Maria del Pilar. I tried to understand her grief and loss, just as she had tried to understand mine. But it wasn't easy. Every time I saw her, I was reminded of the life I had lost. Every time I looked at Tomas, I saw the face of a brother who didn't want me. I still didn't know who I was. The woman who raised me wasn't my mother. The woman who gave me life had lost me long ago. And Tomas, my brother, would never accept me. And in the silence between both graves, in the space between the two women who had claimed me, I searched for the one thing I had never had, myself. I visit both graves now, the woman who gave me life, and the woman who gave me love. And in between those two tombstones, somewhere in the silence, I try to find myself.